Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sneak in Some Science with Miss Mercury. On today's episode, we're going to revisit a word that we used in the last episode, materials. But in this week's episode, we're going to go away from the kitchen chemistry and we're going to move ourselves outside and talk about Earth's materials. Now, as you can see in the table in front of me, there are a few things that are here. Before I mention what they are, let's just think for a moment. When I say the words Earth's materials, what kind of words do you think of? What do you think I'm talking about? Hint, 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 hint. Do you know? Well, hopefully you said things like water, rocks, sand, or soil. These are some of Earth's materials. Now there's lots of materials that are found all over Earth. Some of them are called man-made. So plastic is a great example of something that's man-made. But wood, well, that comes from a tree. The clothing that you're wearing, well, that's cotton. That also comes from a plant. So some things are man-made and some things are naturally found on Earth. In today's episode, we'll be focusing on Earth's materials that are naturally found here on Earth. Not only will we be looking at water, rocks, sand, and soil, but we'll also be asking some really fun and interesting questions about these Earth materials. Let's get started. To do today's activity, you simply just need to be outside. You can either gather materials outside and bring them in, or you're more than welcome to stay outside if you have everything available. Today's materials are as follows. You will need a container to hold your water, rocks, you won't damage them, so you can choose any of your favorites for this exercise, some sand, make sure that it's dry, and some soil. How do you find sand and soil? Think about it for one moment. How do you find sand and how do you find soil? Got an idea? All right. Cool. Let's just make sure everyone's on the same page. To find sand, you can simply go to the side of your street or your driveway. We're looking to find something that's near rocks, but not necessarily near plants. We'll talk about what sand is coming up. When it comes to soil, don't damage the garden, but if you have a garden, that's exactly where you're going to find some soil. But another great place to find soil is very carefully, you can remove the space beneath a plant or a tree. Make sure you don't cause any major damage, but that's most likely soil. We'll look at the property soil coming up. The other things that you need, well, there's lots of measuring tools that are available. I just like to use my sense of sight. But if you have any cool tools like stereoscopes or maybe even a microscope, you could use those. Or if you have like a hand lens, you could use that. You can also use tools like rulers or balances or scales. And of course, you'll need your notebook and a pen or pencil. And if you'd like to do any drawings of the things you see, feel free to have any colors available. Or, of course, you can have different tools available to take pictures of what you observe. Always fun to do. So let's start an investigation. Before we begin our investigation, I like to do some observations. I like to look to see what I'm going to be investigating. So these are Earth's materials. Let's start by looking at the water. What kind of information can we share or write down about water? What are some properties of water? Or what does water look like? Or how does it move in the container? Does it have a particular smell? We don't taste in our labs, but could it have a taste? So think for a moment. Once you have some ideas, jot them down in your notebook. Next, let's take a look at the rocks. Now, rocks are pretty cool. They're very hard, and if we think about the texture, well, they can be smooth, they can be rough, they can be rigid or have bumps in them. They can also be different colors. So rocks are really neat. I used to actually be a big rock collector. I love me some rocks. So jot down some notes or some images, or take some images rather, photographs of the rocks that you've chosen for today's activity. Note so many different features about them. Rocks are very unique. Next, let's take a look at our sand. Sand is very, very interesting. As we take a closer look, what do you notice about the sand? Well, as I move my spoon through the sand and I take a closer look, I can tell that sand is really made up of these tiny little, almost mini rocks. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's mini rocks. So how is sand made? Let's think about it. How do we go from something that looks like this to something that looks like this? Think you know? Very good. Over time, rocks break down. And as rocks break down, either naturally or by different processes that humans can put them through, they become sand. Sand also might have a little bit of this and a little bit of that in it, but if you took a closer look with a hand lens or with a stereoscope, you would indeed find tiny little pieces of rock. Pretty cool. Now let's take a closer look at soil. What's soil all about anyway? Let's think about where we got it from. It's near plants and trees. It's really dark. I see some little pieces of sand or rock in here, but I mostly see this really dark material, super dark material. And I actually see little twigs, pieces of leaves. Well, that's a dead bug. Kind of gross. It looks like an ant. And yeah, they're all different sizes. The texture is kind of interesting too. It's soft but a little gritty. Well, that's exactly what soil is. Soil has all of these wonderful properties because it's made up of all of these nutrients. And the nutrients that are in soil, which also includes matter that used to be alive and sometimes dead insects too, is fantastic for plants and trees to grow in. We definitely want to have soil when it comes to our plants and our trees. So these are all of Earth's materials. The next thing I want to do is talk about how all of these materials interact with each other. So I like taking water and adding it to the rocks, the sand, and the soil just to see how they interact. So I've already taken each one of these and I've placed them into small cups. Let's have a look. So here we go. Here are our rocks. Here's our sand and our soil. So I just added one more material to our investigation, and that was a small clear cup. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take a little bit of the water and we are going to pour it into the cup and make a really good prediction of what is going to happen when these two Earth's materials combine. So let's think about the rocks first. If I take the water and pour it on top of the rocks, what will happen? Will the rocks break down and become sand? Will the rocks have their colors washed away or become really smooth? What's your prediction? Write your prediction in your notebook. Let's try it out. I have water inside of this water bottle, so I'll go ahead and pour it in. Well, look at that. Not much has changed in our container of water with our rocks. The rocks are still on the bottom. The water has gone all around the rocks. And, well, the rocks just look wet. So not much has changed here. Let's look at our next Earth material, sand. Here's our container of sand. You can see all those little mini rocks inside of all different colors. In fact, you know what's really neat about sand? I've traveled a few places and I've seen sand of all different colors. Makes me wonder, I guess if sand is made up of broken up rocks, perhaps it's the color of the rocks that make the color of the sand. I'm always thinking. So let's take our water. Before I pour it, let's make a quick prediction. What do you think will happen when I pour the water over the sand? One of the cool things about predictions is it's always interesting to think about what you already know. Have you experienced water going over sand before? If you said one time at the beach, you're right. We see this all the time. Let's see what happens. Wait a minute. That's so weird. I poured that water in And if I look at it, it's actually a layer on top of my sand. When I move it around, it looks like the water is not going through. There's a couple of pieces of sand that are on the top, but the water didn't go through all the way. That's pretty neat. Okay, well, that's how that interacts. Let's look at one more thing, the soil. So we have our soil here. We're gonna add some water. I see a lot of larger bits of soil. It looks like some tree bark might be in here too. Hopefully there aren't any insects or they're gonna go for a swim. All right, we're gonna add our water, but let's make a prediction. What will happen? Will it look like maybe the rocks in the water? Will it look like maybe the sand in the water? When was the last time you added water to soil? Have you ever helped anyone water plants? Make a prediction? You can put your prediction in your notebook. Let's take a look. Wow. That's kind of what I expected based on my experience, but definitely not similar to either one of these. As I poured that water in, it looks like it created a brownie soup. The water is completely hanging out and mingling with all of the soil pieces. The soil seems to be saturated all the way through. Saturated means the water is throughout it. That's very interesting. I wonder if there was a hole at the bottom of each one of these cups, what would happen? In fact, that's what we want to do next. Sort of think of questions. What kinds of questions could you ask of things that you're interested in doing next? I can think of a lot of questions. You should think of questions too and jot them down in your notebook. So it is super interesting to see how all of Earth's materials that we have in front of us mix and mingle. Little party going on in these little cups. This is my favorite part of the episode where we phone a science enthusiast. So let's just go ahead. We're going to randomly call a number. Let's try I love these digits. These are my favorite digits. Hello?
Hi.
Hi. Are you a science enthusiast?
Yeah.
Excellent. What is your name?
Arianna.
Hi, Arianna. So wonderful to meet you. How old are you?
9 years old.
9. Excellent number. Almost to 10. So exciting. And Arianna, where do you live in the world?
I live in Berkeley.
And what state is that in?
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Ooh. I actually used to live in Massachusetts. So Arianna, who's 9 from Massachusetts, tell me, what is your favorite part about science? What do you love most about science?
Plants and animals.
Plants and animals. Excellent, excellent topics. Why do you love plants and animals so much?
Well, I love to garden and I love animals and taking care of them.
Oh, wonderful. Do you have a favorite animal?
A wolf.
A wolf. Oh, I hope you don't have one of those at your house. I'm sure that wouldn't be really great with your family. But wolves, that sounds amazing. So tell me, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a baker.
A baker? Ooh, that's some kitchen chemistry if I've ever heard it. What's your favorite thing to bake or cook?
My favorite thing to bake would be brownies.
Brownies. Oh my gosh, I love chocolate. How do you make your brownies? Is there anything special about them? Do you like to put things in or put things on top?
I mean, no, not really, but there was this one time where I baked brownie cake, which is technically just a cake made with brownie mix, and I put stuff on top of it.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so delicious right now. And the funny thing about that is that we are studying lots of different types of materials today, and we're doing rocks, sand, and soil, and we actually made what I like to call a brownie cake, but it's really just soil with water. But it looks like brownies, but you definitely don't want to eat it. It's not as delicious as brownies. Well, Arianna, thank you so much for being a science enthusiast. Don't forget, science every day. And I hope that you have a wonderful start to the rest of your day. And you finish strong with science. It was great talking to you.
It was great talking to you.
Thanks for being on the show. Excellent. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was so much fun. I love talking to science enthusiasts. Are you a science enthusiast? Maybe I could randomly call you. Let me know in the comments or send me a message. Let's have you on the show. So we've come to the end of our episode, but let's think about all the cool things we talked about today. We talked about Earth's materials. We gathered some of Earth's materials and we made some great observations, added in some predictions, and tested them out to see what would happen. We even asked additional questions on maybe activities we want to do later. Then, of course, we talked to our science enthusiast, Arianna in Massachusetts. Thanks, Arianna, for chatting with us today. The last thing we're going to do is close on a positive note. So in the past, we've talked about the different things that we can do to spread kindness and sort of have our passion projects. Well, this time around, I think we need to create messages. And because we're using Earth's materials, I thought that we would use one of our Earth's materials to share our messages. Rock messages. So it's pretty simple. Another activity to do. We're simply just going to pick a rock or select a rock and create a message. Well, how do you do that? Well, you think of something that you want to say, and then you go ahead and grab different kinds of markers or different colors of chalk or whatever you'd like to do, and you just simply decorate your rock. So that's exactly what I'm going to do now. My message is going to be very simple. Science every day. Because that's my message, right? Science every day. And you can do other really cool things too, like adding stars or hearts or zigzags or just some firework kinds of colors all around. But what I think is really neat about message rocks is that you can really share different kinds of messages. For example, maybe you'd like to share the message, smile, or be kind. And if you share a message like that, you want to make sure that other people can see it. Consider taking your message rock, maybe placing it on a dresser in your house, or maybe on the bathroom so that when someone walks in and washes their hands, they'll see it, or on the side of the stove or the sink or something like that. And they can see your fun message that says, have a great day, or you're awesome, or you're wicked awesome. And either way, what you definitely want to do is make sure that you share that message in a very secret way so they don't expect to see it. Rock messages are pretty cool, and they share what you want to say and how you want to say it in a very short and sweet way. All right, well, I'm done with my rock message. I'm going to find some great places to put it, and I think I'll just make a couple. I have a lot of things to say. So thanks so much for watching this episode of Sneak in Some Science with Miss Mercury. I hope you enjoyed all things science today. I'll catch you later. Bye. Let's take a look at the water. Oh gosh. Oh, this one had all the soil on it. It's a lot of water. I guess water. What do you notice about the soil and the water I added? I'm gagging here. Soil and the water. It's a spoon. I feel like I should be eating it, but no, don't do that. I'm going to go ahead and use the stereoscope to take a closer look at
What? My dad's FaceTiming me. Hello? Hi, Dad. Dad, I'm in the middle of recording an episode. Can I give you a call back?
I'll be here.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Love you, bye.
You can even use different tools. For example, a stereoscope, or maybe you have a balance, or you can use something like a Thank you so much to our science. Are you kidding? Another delivery. It's Sunday. It's Sunday. Exercise balls? Oh yes, getting my ab workout in. We do science and we have a workout. Woo! Rocks, right? Do some bicep